All right, Algebra 2. Today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting rational expressions. Yesterday we talked about just simplifying the expressions, and now we're going to add and subtract them. Now, again, it's just expressions at this point. There's no equal sign in our original equation. So we are just basically simplifying still, just simplifying with adding and subtracting. So let's look at the steps. We're going to first rewrite the problem using a common denominator. You're going to combine the numerators, keep the common denominator, and then you're going to simplify the whole thing. So I think that will make sense as we go along. We're starting with adding, and with adding, actually adding and subtracting, with like bases. That means that the denominators are already the same. So if we have 13a over 4a squared plus 5a over 4a squared, okay? The denominators are already common. It says rewrite the problem using a common denominator. We don't have to do that. Step 2, combine the numerators and keep the denominator. So we're keeping this, and now it's going to be 13a plus 5a, which is 18a over 4a squared. And then the last step is simplifying the remaining expression. So we're going to see what can we simplify here. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 18 9 times. 1a on top. There's 2 a's on the bottom. So this becomes 9 over 2a. And that's the answer. All right, let's look at number 2. 9x plus 12 over 16 minus 7x plus 2 over 16. Again, the denominators are already the same, so we don't have to do step 1. We're going to write this all over the common denominator. We've got, now watch, because this is a subtraction, we've got 9x plus 12 minus 7x plus 2. It is minus this whole thing. So this subtraction sign has to go to the 7x and to the 2. So this becomes 9x minus 7x and 12 minus 2. Or 2x plus 10 over 16. And the last step is simplifying the remaining expression. So we have to simplify this with the techniques that we learned yesterday. We're going to factor out the greatest common factor on the top. And we're going to see what we can simplify. 2 goes into there once, 2 goes into there 8. So our answer is going to be x plus 5 over 8. And that's our answer. Okay, let's look at number 3. Y squared plus 8y over y squared minus 9 plus 2y plus 21 over y squared minus 9. Okay, same denominator. So we're going to write it over y squared minus 9. We got y squared plus 8y plus 2y plus 21. That simplifies to y squared plus 10y plus 21 over y squared minus 9. Now we have to simplify this with how we did yesterday. So we're going to factor the numerator, what multiplies to give us 21 and adds to give us 10. And that's going to be 7 and 3. And what the denominator is the difference of 2 perfect squares. So that's y, 3, 3. 1 is plus, 1 is minus. Let's see what we can cross off. We can cross those off. So we're left with y plus 7 over y minus 3. And that's our answer. There's nothing else we can do there. Okay, let's look at number 4. 1 over 12a minus 3 minus 16x whoops, not an X, but an A, 16A squared over 12A minus 3. So we got the same denominator, 12A minus 3. We got 1 minus 16A squared in the numerator. We're going to factor. This is a difference of two perfect squares in the numerator. 1 times 1 is 1, and 4A times 4A is 16A squared. 1's plus, 1's minus. In the denominator, we can factor out of 3, and we're left with 4A minus 1. What can we cross off? Can we cross off 1 minus 4A and 4A minus 1? We can, only if we put a negative out in front. So we're left with negative 1 plus 4A over 3. And we can distribute that negative 1 and write it as negative 1 minus 4A over 3. And there's our answer for number 4. Number 5 is n squared plus 3n minus 7 over n squared plus n minus 6 minus n plus 1 over n squared plus n minus 6. We got common denominators, n squared plus n minus 6. In the numerator, we have n squared plus 3n minus 7 minus n plus 1 in parentheses. This negative has to go to both of those. So that becomes n squared plus 3n minus 7 minus n minus 1. And that simplifies to n squared plus 2n minus 8. And now we're going to factor. What multiplies to give you negative 8 and adds to give you 2? Not a 6, but a 4 and a 2, and the 4 is plus and the 2 is minus. And in the denominator, what multiplies to give you negative 6 and adds to give you 1? That's going to be a 3 and a 2, and the 3 is plus and the 2 is negative. What can we cross off? We can cross those off, and we're left with n plus 4 over n plus 3. And there's our answer. And one more of these, number 6. And remember, along the way, you can turn this off and try them yourselves, and then turn it back on and see if you get the right answer. We got 13k squared minus 9k over 6k squared minus 5k plus 1 plus k squared plus 2k over 6k squared minus 5k plus 1. So let's put them all together. I'm going to combine them all in one step right here. 13k squared plus k squared is 14k squared, and negative 9k plus 2k is negative 7k over this. Now we have to factor this. The bottom is going to be the harder one to factor, so I'm going to put it over here, and we're just going to work with it for a minute. You could do guess and check if you want, or you could do this technique where we have k squared minus 5k plus 6, and we'll say what multiplies to give you positive 6 and adds to give you negative 5. And that's going to be a 2 and a 3, and they're both going to be negative. And since we multiplied by 6, we have to divide by 6. And we can't move this 6 over until these are reduced fractions. So we can write this as k minus 1/3 and k minus 1/2. Now we can write that as 3k minus 1 and 2k minus 1. And that is what the denominator factors to. The numerator, we can factor out a greatest common factor of 7k. And we're left with 2k minus 1. And in the denominator, we have this 3k minus 1, 2k minus 1. So then we can cross these off, and we're left with 7k over 3k minus 1. And that's the answer. Okay? That's when you already have common denominators. What if you don't have a common denominator? You have to find the common denominator. So let's look at number 7. We've got 15 over 2x minus 16 over 3x. What is going to be the common denominator between 2x and 3x? The x's are already the same, so we just have to have a common thing between 2 and 3, so that's going to be 6x. So that means we're going to have to multiply this one by 3 over 3, and this one by 2 over 2. And we're left with 45 over 6x minus 32 over 6x, which equals 45 minus 32 over 6x, which equals 13 over 6x. And that's your answer. There isn't anything that we can do to make that more simple. All right, let's look at number 8. 4a over a squared minus 7 over 8a. So what's going to be our common denominator between a squared and 8a? That's going to be 8a squared. So we have to multiply this one by a over a, and this one by 8 over 8. And we're left with 32a over 8a squared minus 7a over 8a squared, which equals 25a over 8a squared. And now we can simplify this. Nothing goes into 25 and 8, so those are simple. But here we have 1a on top and we have 2 on the bottom. So it can be 25 over 8a. And that is the simplest form of the answer. Okay, let's look at number 9. Of course, you know they're going to get more complicated, right? K squared plus 16 over 5k minus 10 minus 4 over k minus 2. Well, the first thing I would do is factor the bottom of this one right here. And so if I factor this, I could take out a 5 and I could write it as 5 times k minus 2. Now I can see what they have in what the denominators have in common. And if I multiply this one by 5 over 5, then my common denominator can be 5 times k minus 2. And my numerator is going to be k squared plus 16 minus 20. The 20 is from this 4 times 5. So that equals k squared minus 4 over 5 times k minus 2. And k squared minus 4 factors to k minus 2, k plus 2. So what can we cross off? We can cross those off and we get k plus 2 over 5. And that's our answer. That one wasn't too bad. Let's look at number 10. 7 over y plus 8 plus 35 over y squared plus 11y plus 24. All right, we can't really tell what the denominators have in common until we factor this one right here. So what multiplies to give you 24 and adds to give you 11? That would be 8 and 3. Now you can see that they both have a y plus 8, but this one has a y plus 3. So we're going to have to multiply this one by y plus 3 over y plus 3. So we get 7 times y plus 3 plus 35, because we didn't need to multiply that side by anything. And our denominator is y plus 8 times y plus 3. And we might as well, since we already factored it, we might as well leave it factored because that's what we're going to have at the end. So this becomes 7y plus 21 plus 35 over our denominator, which is 7y plus 56 over y plus 8 times y plus 3. And now we're going to simplify. In the numerator, we can factor out a 7, and we're left with y plus 8 and we can cross off the y plus 8s, and we're left with 7 over y plus 3 for the answer. Okay, not too bad. Let's look at number 11. X squared minus 5 over x squared plus 5x plus 6 plus 1 over x plus 2. First thing we have to do is factor the denominator. What multiplies to give you 6 and adds to give you 5? That's going to be a 3 and a 2. So you can see that they have an x plus 2 in common. So this one we're going to have to multiply by x plus 3 over x plus 3, which is going to give us x squared minus 5 plus x plus 3, because that's 1 times x plus 3, over x plus 3 times x plus 2. Simplifying the numerator, we get x squared plus x minus 2. And then we're going to factor the numerator. So we're going to say what multiplies to give us negative 2 and adds to give us 1. And that's going to be a 2 and a negative 1. And we got our denominator. And we can cancel those. And we're left with x minus 1 over x plus 3 for number 11. Now, let's look at number 12. We have m squared plus 5m plus 6 over m squared minus 4 plus 2 over m minus 2. So the first thing we have to do is factor the denominator. This becomes m plus 2, m minus 2. So they have an m minus 2 in common. So that means we're going to have to multiply this one by m plus 2 over m plus 2. And we're left with m squared plus 5m plus 6 plus 2 times m plus 2 over m minus 2, m plus 2. And we might as well leave it factored, the denominator factored. But now let's simplify the numerator. We've got m squared plus 5m plus 6. Distributed that 2, we have plus 2m plus 4 over our denominator. I'm not going to write the denominator there. Let's simplify the numerator into m squared plus 7m plus 10 over m minus 2, m plus 2. Factoring the numerator, what multiplies to give you 10 and adds to give you 7. That's going to be 5 and 2. So I'll use another color here. We can cross off the m plus 2 times the m plus 2, and we're left with m plus 5 over m minus 2. Okay, we can't cancel the m's here because these are added together or subtracted. The reason we could cancel things in this step is because these are all multiplied together. So we can go ahead and cancel them. Let's look at number 13. 5 over w plus 1 plus 8 over w minus 7. All right, this one is where we're going to get a little bit more complicated. The denominators are already factored, and there's nothing we can do there. So that means we're going to have to multiply. I'm going to erase this number 13. I'll put it over here. We're going to have to multiply this one by w minus 7 over w minus 7, and this one by w plus 1 over w plus 1. So we end up with 5 times w minus 7 plus 8 times w plus 1 over w minus 7 times w plus 1. So let's simplify the numerator. Distribute the 5 and distribute the 8. And we get, let me make sure I'm doing this right. And we get 13w minus 27 over w minus 7 times w plus 1. And guess what? That's our answer. There's nothing we could do to make that more simple because nothing comes out of 13w and 27 on the top, so we can't factor anything out. So that's just our answer. Let's look at number 14. b over b plus 3 minus 4 over b. Okay, we've got b plus 3 and we've got b. So we're going to have to multiply this one by b over b, and this one by b plus 3 over b plus 3, which equals b squared minus 4 times b plus 3 over b times b plus 3. Okay, we have to simplify the numerator. This negative 4 has to distribute to both of those. So we get negative 4b minus 12 in the numerator. And can that factor? Is there anything that multiplies to give you a negative 12 and adds to give you negative 4? Not a 4 and a 3. So I was wrong there. Okay. It would be a 6 and a 2, and it would be a negative 6 and a plus 2, and our denominator is b times b plus 3. Can we factor anything? No, nothing factors. So again, that's our answer. Sometimes we're just left with an answer like that. All right, let's look 2 more. Number 15. 2 over 4p minus 20 plus p minus 6 over p squared minus 8p plus 15. Whew, this one's complicated. All right, let's go ahead and factor each of the denominators. This first one we could take a 4 out of, and we're left with 4 times p minus 5. This one over here, we can factor, say, what multiplies to give you 15 and adds to give you negative 8. That's going to be a negative 5 and a negative 3. So what do all of these two denominators, what do they have in common, and what do we need to do? Well, this first one is going to have a p minus 3. So we're going to have to multiply by p minus 3 over p minus 3. And the second one is going to have a 4. So we're going to have to multiply by 4 over 4. So this ends up with 2 times p minus 3 plus p minus 6 times 4 over 4 times p minus 5 times p minus 3. Simplifying the numerator, we're going to distribute the 2, so we get 2p minus 6, and we're going to distribute the 4, so we get 4p minus 24 over this big denominator. And combining like terms, we get 6p minus 30 over our denominator. Let's see what we can factor. The top, we can take a 6 out. So we get 6 times p minus 5 over this denominator that we've got. And this denominator should be right here also. I just didn't take the time to write it again. What can we cancel? P minus 5, P minus 5. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 6 3 times. And we're left with 3 on the top and 2 times P minus 3 in the denominator. And that's our answer. Okay, one more. Let's see if we can do this one. R over 2r plus 8 minus 8 over r squared plus 4r. First step, factor the denominators. This first denominator becomes, we're going to factor out a 2. So it's 2 times r plus 4. The second one, we're going to factor out an r. So it's r times r plus 4. So they both already have an r plus 4. This one has a 2. So this one needs to have a 2. So we'll have to multiply by 2 over 2. This one has an r. So this one needs an r. So we're going to multiply by r over r. And we end up with r squared minus 16 over 2r times r plus 4. Factoring the numerator, r minus 4, r plus 4, 2r times r plus 4. Go ahead and cancel, and we're left with r minus 4 over 2r. And that's the answer. Okay, that is the end of this lesson. I'll have some homework for you to work on, and then tomorrow I'm going to post a short quiz that you will have before the end of this week to do before spring break, and then we'll have next week off, and we'll come back to this after spring break.